Welcome back to a bite-sized episode of The Negatives. If this was film, it must be like 110 film or something. Today's episode, we only have one thing to talk about. Kodak. There's a lot of chatter going on around the internet that Kodak is closing up shop. From CNN, Eastman Kodak, the 133-year-old photography company, is warning investors that nice typo in the first line, might not survive much longer. From Petapixel, the future of Eastman Kodak is in doubt today after the historic company said it's struggling to pay a $500 million debt obligation. From MarketWatch, Kodak warns investors it might not be around much longer. From CBS, Kodak is warning that its future in business is looking very blurry. Whoa, look out, someone's a photographer over at CBS there. That was a good one. My precious little eggies, it is so over. Pack it up. Things are grim. Send our Hasselblads back up to the moon where they belong. But as many of you intelligent and frankly attractive individuals who are subscribed to this channel know, the media is gonna media. Most of the stories that I saw about Kodak over the last week have been pretty hyperbolic, very loud, and very dire. Kodak has announced their plans to deal with their financial issues, and after the collective film photography meltdown over the last few days, they put out a blog post addressing everything. They aren't shutting down tomorrow, so let's take a deep breath here. I like to think we're a level-headed bunch of normal people on this channel after all. Either way, given Kodak's history of bankruptcy, splitting off into Eastman and Alaris, selling off to private investment firms, I think this whole story's worth discussing. All this excitement started from Kodak's Q2 earnings report, and some particular language in it that could be construed as, grim. There was also a call discussing the report featuring CEO Jim Continenza and CFO David Bullwinkle. And say witness protection fake name if I've ever heard one. Let me tell ya, that read was slower than the parry windows in Doom the Dark Ages. And in terms of being intelligible by non-business people, it was a lot. So I'll do my darndest to translate this thing into human words for your ear holes. To keep things super simple, Kodak is suffering from two big D's: decreased revenue and debt. They're in debt! The 10Q filing along with this report explains this in excruciating detail. That document is absolutely brutal to read, but I think this is one of the really important takeaways of it. Kodak has debt coming due within 12 months and does not have the committed financing or available liquidity to meet such debt obligations if they were to become due in accordance with their current terms. These conditions raise substantial doubt about Kodak's ability to continue as a going concern. Several outlets have reported that a Kodak spokesperson basically explained that this part of the report was a legally required disclosure. And the reason it's legally required is that Kodak's debt comes due within the next 12 months of filing this report. Stick around, I'll explain their proposed solution in a second, but I want to go in chronological order here just for my sanity. So with this in mind, we started seeing all of those reports of the sky falling. And speaking of falling, if you're into stonks, Kodak kind of took a tumble after the release of this report. That was certifiably not a Kodak moment. Some may say surely this is the fault of the tariffs. And I would say, don't call me Shirley. But I feel like many people are neglecting to mention the fact that Eastman Kodak is based in the mythical faraway land of Rochester, New York. They are an American company. And let me just take a quick second here to clarify this, because this is pretty important and kind of confusing. There's Eastman Kodak, which we commonly just call Kodak. That's the original company. There's also Kodak Alaris, which is the spin-off company. This split-off happened when Kodak filed for bankruptcy in 2012. This shit is very confusing, but to the best of my understanding, Eastman Kodak is in charge of making the film here in America, and Alaris is more of a distributor. They globally distribute the photo film and not the movie films like Vision 3. It's kind of like in Breaking Bad when Walt and Jesse make the meth and they have combos Skinny Pete and Badger sell it. So that's a long way of saying I don't think they're gonna be putting tariffs on New York. But what do I know? I'm just some guy sitting on his toilet. You can actually take it from Jim Continenza, the man himself, Kodak's CEO.
Year to date, tariffs did not have a material impact in our business. We're supportive of tariffs as long as they benefit the U.S. manufacturer. We would hope the impact of the tariff would not negatively impact the last U.S. manufacturer of lithographic plates. As an American manufacturer for over 100 years, we remain committed to manufacturing in the U.S. and expect U.S. tariffs to protect U.S. businesses. like ours.
See, he likes them. Now, obviously, that's not to say that Kodak is completely self-sufficient. I'm sure they have to import some material in order to make their film, but I also think solely blaming the tariffs in this case is a bit of a cope. The problem really does seem as simple as decreased revenue and their looming debt situation. So how are they going to fix all this? Here's their proposed solution. Kodak is more than just film. They reported more revenue coming in from their dabbling in advanced materials and chemicals, or AM&C as they call it. They're getting into some medical supply stuff like saline, very exciting stuff.
Our cGMP pharmaceutical manufacturing facility is now registered with the FDA and certified to manufacture and sell certain regulated pharmaceutical products.
This isn't super surprising considering Fujifilm does the same thing. Beyond the revenue coming from the AM&C stuff, they also plan on using funds from the KRIP, the Kodak Retirement Income Plan, which is a pension fund. Now, I don't know shit about pension funds, but my dad, he is way smarter than I am and he knows all about stuff like that, so I asked his opinion on it. One of his concerns with that is that might take a long time to accomplish. So the question that my dad rose here was, does Kodak have enough cash to operate while the pension fund situation is being settled? But Kodak seems to think it's all good, so yeah. One of the big concerns raised in the initial Q2 reporting was that the KRIP reversion is not solely within Kodak's control and therefore is not deemed probable under US generally accepted accounting principles, which is what triggered the going concern. Kodak goes more in depth on these items in their latest blog post, assuring everyone that the going merry is totally fine and all they need to do is get to Water 7 for repairs, and if you understood that joke, you have to subscribe. I don't make the rules. They specifically point out that Kodak has been preparing for the pension plan termination for some time and expects to receive approximately $500 million of assets after meeting their obligations to all pension fund participants, which honestly is a relief to hear. No one wants to hear about people losing pensions or getting screwed out of what they've worked hard for. Honestly, the blog post is pretty short and it's written in a way that humans who aren't accountants can understand. It's worth a read if you're at all interested in this situation. Kodak has no plans to cease operations, go out of business, or file for bankruptcy protection. When the transactions we have planned are completed, which is expected to be early next year, Kodak will have a stronger balance sheet than we've had in years and will be virtually net debt free. So there's a healthy dose of optimism for you, and I'm not exactly a pessimist, but I am a realist. And I'll tell you, this thing does read like one big damage control letter here, and don't take that as me wanting Kodak to be in trouble, because obviously I don't want that. I mean, you're seeing it in this video. Look at how much Kodak I've shot over the years. But let's face it, it's a public company. Do you think investors want Kodak to be Fred Durst-maxing? Everything's fucked, everybody sucks! But beyond the PR, here's why I find this whole thing very odd. If you've been watching the best photo news show on YouTube, The Negatives, you might have seen me talk about a few previous Kodak-related stories over the last year. Here's the timeline. Back in August of last year, Kodak Alaris was acquired by Kingswood Capital Management, which is a private equity firm. This put Kodak Alaris in the same portfolio as Turbo Wholesale Tires, which is just an awesome name. Then in November, I did the clickbait story about Kodak closing down production temporarily in order to modernize their facility and be ready to meet the increased demand for film. Then in February, Kodak did the crackdown on third-party companies respooling their cinema films, unless your name is Cindy still, of course, and it was at this time I was speculating that Kodak was going to put out their own Remjet removed cinema film, and a leak confirmed my suspicion. And now this? Doesn't it feel like there's a step missing here? Obviously, Kodak spent money to improve the manufacturing, but how do we go from expanding to meet demand, cracking down on third parties respooling film, to, oh my god, we're closing? So what's gonna happen? Listen, Kodak can't close. You can finally buy their fabled Super 8 camera for the very reasonable, very affordable price of $5,495 from B&H. Jokes aside, Kodak claims to be confident amid the challenging environment. And hey, challenges can make you stronger. That's why I play Doom on Nightmare mode. So let's hope for the best. I don't want to see Kodak go away, and I'm sure most of you watching this channel don't either. If this does go down, I imagine Kodak would be sold off and the film would continue to exist just under someone else. Is there a wacky world where Cine still owns Kodak?
Hey, I doubt it!
More likely than not, it would be a similar acquisition like the Kingswood Capital Management investment firm crap. But the implication implications of Kodak shutting down are genuinely massive for the film world. Countless companies rely on Kodak for their own films, like Flickfilm and CineStill. These third parties help make film more accessible for photographers around the world. And I don't even want to get into the implications in the movie industry. Christopher Nolan's Odyssey is shooting on IMAX film, Dune 3 is shooting on film. To use Gen Z's vernacular, Kodak is him. The portrait tones meme exists for a reason. People love the film, it looks great. We'll have to keep an eye on Kodak and see what develops. But also, it probably wouldn't hurt to buy a few extra rolls of portrait and toss them in the freezer. Anyway, I'm gonna go back to developing film with random substances like Jaeger bombs, because all this money and business stuff makes me want to drink Blicks. So slap that subscribe button or do something. All right, bye.
Like and subscribe. Sweet Loop Photography. Domain.